This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Thank you very much for choosing the Situation Room on Spice FM 94.4 Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru 96.0, Eldoret 96.7, Nyeri 90.9, Malindi 97.7, and we're now live on KTN Home for the next 2 hours as well. A very good morning to our audience on KTN Home. We're also live on www.spicefm.co.ke and Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. CT, before we start everything else, today's proverb.
Eric, you really must stop doing this.
What am I doing?
Yes, you wait for me to turn the page away from where the proverb is written, and then you ask me to read it. All right, let me read it. The food that is prepared has no master. A Malagasy saying.
Say that again.
The food that is prepared has no master.
The food that is prepared has no master.
No.
Okay. We have a guest in the studio for the next hour. This is Masila-Achola. She's the executive director and founder of Value Connect. Masi, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
And thank you very much for joining us today. Asante sana, we really appreciate having you here in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Did you get CT's proverb?
Yes, I did.
I saw you nodding, and when he told us in the first hour, we were like, huh? Food master.
Yes, the reason I know that is because it's not the exact words that Siti Muga said, but I could resonate because my mother used to say, cooked food is, excuse my language, but it's poo. Meaning that when I connect with that, is once you have cooked food, you know what?
Next destination.
Give it. It's supposed to be eaten.
Eat it.
And if you don't eat it, it's your loss, really. So connecting to what he's saying is that once the food has been cooked, it's supposed to be eaten. You can't eat alone. If you can't eat with others, even better. So that's how I made the connection to that.
By the way, you will realize in the fullness of time that my colleagues and I tend to be a bit slow in the morning. So when I first mentioned the proverb, they didn't get it. But now with you here, I can see they're beginning to get it.
You should have said it that way.
Well, you see, one of the things I do is I'm a communicator. So I break down matters to be understood better. So maybe that's why I'm here this morning.
You're very welcome. We sometimes have a problem with a broken down system. But yes, we will style up and we will do our
But
best.
did I get it right? Is that what you meant?
Actually,
It's good to know.
I thought the
From a
Malagasy
teacher.
meant.
no. What you said is absolutely, you're spot on in this sense. In the morning, we debated around it briefly, and we said, in an African setting, this saying makes a lot of sense. Because Africans cooked with visitors in mind.
Yes.
So you didn't know who the visitor would be.
You never cooked just enough.
No, it was never enough. And if you thought that the meal that was being eaten was enough, there's always something in the pot should visitors come. Now that's food that is prepared.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when we grew up also, I remember, we used to run into each other's homesteads and
Yes.
eat from each other's homes and no one cared.
Yep.
And like today where you're checking whether there are nuts and allergies and
You've got to ask the kids so many questions. Fill up this questionnaire before I serve it. Do you have
want
any
to be
known
known
allergy?
allergies. Yeah.
Right. Welcome, Mercy, and it's good to have you. Tell us about Value Connect.
Well, Value Connect, just as the word says, is we're about connecting people, but beyond connecting is making sure we add value to them. And this came about to me about 7 years ago when I started my own life as an entrepreneur. This is after more than 2 decades working in the corporate space. And I recognized that I had this gift of connecting people. But I wanted to do more than just connecting. I said, I want to add value in the process of connecting people. I could meet and do here, and she would be offering something. We'd have a conversation. And as I step out, I meet Eric. And Eric tells me, and I'm like, actually, I just met Du, and she has something.
I just know
think,
someone.
You know, even if I didn't know what it is, I'd make the disclaimer. I say, I've had her say it.
Right.
Now tried it myself, but maybe you need to talk to her. And if I had tried it, of course, then I would be the one to say, I have tried it, I can vouch for it. So I started off by, because of being in the corporate space, I started by connecting businesses to their export markets. So that's how it started. And then I was in a crisis of my own, if you could call it that. I had had to step down of a very senior corporate job to follow my family because my husband was sent to work abroad. And I had a choice. Do I sit at home, become a housewife, or what can I do? And then I looked back from where I'd come from and I said, I can do something. So I started to connect the businesses. And that's where my journey started. A couple of years later, as I went through my own personal development, I began to realize that these companies that I was trying to help to export markets, a lot of them were lacking. Yes, they had fantastic products, fantastic leaders, but anytime I put them in front of an investor, you would find that they lacked what we call soft skills, but I call them essential soft skills. How do you negotiate? How do you connect with a person across the table? As a leader, what is your vision? Can you articulate it? Can you tell somebody where you're going, from where you're coming? And then in terms of also customer relations, how do you interact with them? And all these things are very important and vital because a lot of us, when we're starting businesses, we look at the process, we look at the systems, and we believe they bring us efficiencies. And we forget a very important thing, people. The people we have, starting with ourselves, we have to develop and nurture us. So I wanted to be in this space and to help people in that. And that is how I came to be a certified coach, speaker, and trainer with the John Maxwell team. I've connected the dots for you there, Eric.
Completely.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
You're the go-to lady, basically.
Yes, I am.
You're like, you know those people who say, I know a guy. That's Marcy.
You're the guy.
Yes, that's the one. You tell Marcy anything, I just know the person that you need to talk to. I just know the lady that you need to call.
Or like me, when you mentioned John Maxwell, I'm asking, who is John Maxwell?
Who's John Maxwell?
He said, no, Masila-Achola.
Just ask Marcy.
In Kenya, Masila-Achola.
Marcy. Yep.
Do you want me to answer you, Situma?
No. Yesterday, when I was told about John Maxwell, I didn't know who John Maxwell was. So I went and read. And what I read was very interesting. Very, very interesting. And even awe-inspiring in terms of just the number of books the person has written. I was what time when does this guy do nothing else but just write books? Huh?
So who is he?
Well, apart from who he is in terms of his name, you know, as we speak currently, he's, I believe, 53 years old. But what caught my attention about what he represents was not just that, but what people who had preceded him had done. There's a gentleman called Norman Vincent Peale, all right? And there is another gentleman, same, along those same lines, whose name was Dale Carnegie, okay? Now, I came across this gentleman as a young person because I had parents who happened to be readers. So they essentially were the first purveyors of the powers of positive thinking. Now, what John Maxwell presents is something a little more than that. It's like you take the power of positive thinking and you want to create it in a way that it is easily usable. It is user-friendly. And that's where the issue of leadership comes in. So he has distilled certain principles that have existed for a long time, but he's presented them in a way that you, as you consume it, you can actually put it into practice. That's my take on it.
And you've done an excellent job. Can I clap for you?
No, please don't. Because unfortunately, we're going to remember this for months.
Months?
So
What?
Give him something more tangible.
You won't let it pass.
No, he really will not. Unfortunately. So then with leadership, I mean, it's something that fortunately and unfortunately something that made its way into spaces that we've discussed, from individuals who work on their own to corporate sector, hopefully into government. And then unfortunately, it has become a buzzword that people just kind of throw around here and there. And then to say that in times where countries may be in crisis, in times where organizations may be in crisis, in times when the world may be in crisis, you need then somebody who's going to stand up, stand out, and take the lead. What does this really mean? I mean, we say it and we use it like almost interchangeably with anything. But really, what is leadership? And then how do you say this person is actually a great leader? If you take the principles that in the many books that Maxwell has written, how do we then apply that?
Very good question, though. You know, John says everything rises and falls with leadership. It starts with you, it starts with me. And in a time of crisis, actually, that is when true leadership is revealed. You cannot make it up, you cannot fake it. And leadership is about bringing what is inside of you to outside. It's about having a vision and casting it and knowing, this is me as Ndu, this is what I stand for, values. What values are you holding on to? And those values are the ones that translate into your character. And from your character, then it is able to be visible in each and everything that you do. And a crisis is the time when the rubber meets the road. Yeah? You'll get to know who's a pretender and who's a player. A pretender will want to skim, the surface, but a player goes deeper. It's the time you want to identify who if you're leading an organization, is when you want to be closest to your people because they're feeling vulnerable. It's the time they need to be shown the way. Actually, John says leaders know the way, they show the way, and live the way. So you cannot give what you do not have. I'm just trying to simplify what that essence of leadership is. Because as you rightly said, we have misconstrued this word. Leadership is not a position. You don't need a position to be a leader. Because, like I said, you start leading yourself. Now, to lead yourself, you don't need a position. You're who you are. You need to know where you're going and how you're getting there. Now, when you move into a position, this is now when you must influence. Because if you're going to be leading by giving dictates and people following you because they are rules, that's no impact. The influence comes by people watching you, believing in what you're taking them through, and they want to follow because they're feeling that where you're leading them to is better. And even as you go higher the levels of a leader, leaders are not about creating followers. Leaders are about creating other leaders.
About creating other leaders.
Yeah.
So do you become a leader? Are you born a leader? Do you grow into being a leader?
Another good question, Eric. We are all born.
With leadership qualities?
We all have some elements of leadership in us. But like everything else, you must nurture it. You must be intentional in developing it. So there are people who you say they're naturally born with traits that probably make it easier for them to become what we call better leaders, and that's why people say they are born leaders. But the truth is, each and every one of us has a capability to grow and become a leader. We just need to be self-aware, what are the areas we're growing, and we need to be intentional about that. Then we will be a leader.
Well, that's a very dangerous statement. It's very dangerous because anyone listening to it,
Yes.
if you're Kenyan, let me start with if you're African, then you're Kenyan, and they believe John Maxwell has said, I am a leader, I have the capability of being a leader. So you will stop telling me what to do, I will lead myself. And since I am a leader, and I am born a leader, and you know how it continues, you have an entire country of people who believe they can lead themselves. At what point do you understand that leadership sometimes means submission?
You see, even if you get to what we would term as the highest hierarchy of being a leader, it does not mean you know it all. Actually,
in an African setting, you know it all. That's why you're the leader.
I mean, that's why you're the leader.
Why else are you the leader?
They gave you the position because, Nobody else could fit the ball. Nobody else's feet could fit in these shoes.
You see, let's even come to this crisis we have been in. COVID-19. No one has ever seen a crisis like this before. Closest was 100 years ago. None of us was alive. And there's not a single leader in whichever capacity could stand up and say, I know where this thing is taking us. You had to sit down. You had to put down your thoughts. And if you look at those who have managed to be successful in this era, they sat down with a group of people to brainstorm. What do you think, Muga? What do you think, Eric? And you put all these things down, and a lot of us, it was try and error. Some things worked, and then the leadership comes in. You need to be agile in the decision-making process and be very quickly to decipher at what point this thing is not working, drop it, and move on. So being a leader is not knowing it all. It's being able to consult and engage a team that works within you. In fact, it's called the inner circle. I could go spiritual here. Even Jesus, who was man, God in man, had an inner circle that he used to consult. He didn't know it all in that sense. He always used to engage them and brought them down. Yes, he knew it all as God, but he always brought it down and broke it down to the disciples around him. He never castigated any one of them for asking questions. And you know what? Good leaders ask great questions. If you're a leader and you're not asking the people around you questions, you will never know what is happening. They will always try and tell you what they think you want to hear. But if you ask the right questions, step back to listen, and then from there, decide and take the action that needs to happen, then you're being a leader.
So in essence, what you're saying, just to go with what CT was asking, I did not even asking, it's for you to be a leader, then you've got to have people that you're leading, right? You can't be a leader of yourself, really. You've got to have others that, whose input you're seeking, and then from their input, you're giving them direction. That's basically the essence of leadership. You're listening, you're deciphering what exactly is happening, you're understanding the situation and the circumstances, and then you're saying, then, with everything considered, this is the best route to take. I believe this is how we should go. And then now, with that, they follow you, and you continue making the decisions, just like you're saying. If you realize that you made a wrong turn, immediately understand that and turn back. You've got to have people that you are leading.
Yes, you've put it right, but I take you a step back a little bit. That you must first be able to lead yourself before you lead others. Leadership starts with you, because you cannot give what you do not have. If I cannot wake up and I mean, let's again, it's about simplifying this context, okay? We all have aspirations of where we want to go in life. I remember when I was young, my desire was to travel the world. And I thought I could do that as an air stewardess. But as I grew older, I figured that there were better ways I could travel without necessarily being that. So I was leading myself in my vision of where I saw myself and where I want to go. Now, if I cannot figure that out for myself, how do I begin to figure it out for other people?
Are we asking these questions? Because, I mean, obviously, when you think about leadership and then coming back to even the African context where we are domiciled here, then people who are voting, for example, and of course I had to go there, people who are making decisions about who to put in positions of leadership, asking these questions, because it seems almost simple that if you can look at an individual, I mean, and say, do they have these attributes? And then use that to be able to put them in these positions. Do you think then it's a formula that we should be able to use even when we are voting?
Very good question, Drew. And as you have said it, unfortunately, we're not making use of it. It's simple, but not so simple to us. Because ideally, when I'm going to the ballot box, I need to know what values do I stand for. Okay? But in a way, probably we are actually voting who we are. I drive on Nairobi roads and I look at just in an incident where sometimes it's not even an accident, maybe just a little pile up or something. And suddenly you'll have 5 lanes. The impunity in us. We don't have patience to wait and see, is this traffic going to be moving? We are all feeling that I am justified, I'm the one in a hurry, I need to get there first before everybody else. So why is it any wonder the kind of voting we do? But if we stepped back and said, what is it that I really stand for? What are my values? If we can get that right, then you will want to get somebody who stands for similar values as you to be the one to represent you. We've been told many times our voting has consequences, and we see it all the time. Is it a wonder?
It's the choices that we make.
Exactly.
Let's bring in a second guest who's joined us this morning, and this is a leader in the corporate world. Susan Situma is the head of SME banking at Apsa Bank Kenya. So, vice president and head of SME banking, Apsa Bank Kenya. Karibu sana, Susan, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Eric.
So, when you're talking about leadership, I know we have gone through it all. John Maxwell, the leadership, trying to understand and define leadership. When you hear this whole definition of leadership from, let's not even go into the political side first, just from the corporate side. And when you see people, you lead a team, right? What is it that would make then somebody a good leader of a team? And then do you also have the capacity to identify other leaders within the team who are like leading themselves so well that they'd be able to help you achieve what you have as goals for the team?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. And I believe, just like Marcy has said, it's so important that you know how you are grounded as a leader. What values do you stand for? What's your purpose? And I believe that clarity of purpose is what drives you towards achieving your goals. You're very clear about how you want to achieve your goals in that respect. And I'm thinking around this, even from a corporate perspective, from an organization perspective. If an organization does not set those values and make sure that they are known, even with their employees, then it becomes difficult to be able to drive a common goal or a common purpose, because everybody needs to subscribe to that and therefore behave in a manner that drives them towards achieving that goal. It gives them that clarity. So in that respect, I think it's the most important thing that you need to reflect on. And if I could just talk a little bit around this period where we are in, where a lot of organizations then have to either say, okay, if this was our goal and this is not where what we set out as our values and purpose is leading us to, then we need to rethink that and therefore set goals that will lead us to the purpose which we want to get to. I think for me, that's one of the things that you really must do. And you must do that within yourself. And then you find that as an individual then within that organization, if your own values don't align, then you'll always have a problem fitting in and being able to lead your people towards the goal that the organization wants to get to. So it's so important that you have an aligned sort of like values vision with the organization where you are at.
So you must lead yourself into conformity.
Not quite lead yourself into conformity because you have a choice.
Into conformity.
You have a choice. You have a
Who
choice.
comes before the other? Is it the leader or the organization? Whose vision?
Well, that's phase one of my question.
and value.
I'm coming to the second phase of my question.
Yeah, I believe at the end of the day, I mean, just like, and I like the example that Marcy was giving earlier around what she wanted to be, right? And she could have decided to go and conform, whether it's Kenya Airways, and conform to that organization. But remember, that's not her vision. She wants to travel the world.
Yep.
Does it mean she has to be an air hostess to travel the world? It means if she then decides to do that, she's conforming to wanting to be within that environment so that she can achieve a different goal. But will she be satisfied? That's the other question. Because it's got to be so natural that it's not something that you put on and put off.
She must love hospitality.
Yes.
If she doesn't love dealing with people, then this whole thing.
Hospitality was standing for long hours
Yeah,
and
for
walking
long
down
hours,
those long
absolutely.
aisles. Ceased to, they're an immense
And
source
dealing
of
with
joy
people,
as
different
opposed to
kinds of
being
people.
a pain on your feet.
Well, I love those ladies and men who attend to us when we are flying. But actually, to be honest, my father had a bigger say in that. And we have to come to the reality of where we grew up. My father felt he has invested a lot in my education. And there was no, and there's nothing wrong, by the way, with that profession. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we know our parents,
His
especially in
his
those
perception
days,
of that profession was
it
completely
was like,
different.
no way, you
from-
are ending up.
You take the view clearly that there's been a lot of change in these perspectives in the time in
since
which
then.
we live in.
Yes.
We have in the studio this morning Masila-Achola, she's Executive Director of Value Connect, and Susan Situma, she's the VP and Head of SME Banking at Apsa Bank Kenya. We are talking about leadership, live to lead. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM and also on KTN Home, as well as online on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. We are talking about leadership. And we are hashtagging this as Live to Lead. Why are we doing Live to Lead? What is Live to Lead? Mercy.
Oh, Live to Lead is an exciting leadership experience that happens every year. This was started 7 years ago by John Maxwell. He hosts an event for leaders to engage those who want to grow themselves, those who want to learn from world-class leaders, and those who want to equip themselves with practical skills that, as Muga put earlier, you can begin to apply immediately in your leadership and sphere of influence. So this year will be the 7th year running. As Value Connect, it will be the 2nd year that we are hosting it.
So it's an annual global event.
True.
And does it happen concurrently?
Good question. Now, John Maxwell, if you ask me, given the crisis we are in today, was ahead of the game. He started to do a live simulcast of this event. And rightfully because, yes, he was traveling the world and having different leadership engagements and speaking in different circles. But at the end of the day, you can only be present in a particular place. You can only do so many in a particular given year. Last year, in the live simulcast, it was beamed live in 300 different locations across the world. Imagine if he was to travel to those 300 locations. He wouldn't even cover that. So we get a live feed from Atlanta, Georgia, and then we are able, we as, when I say we, is the John Maxwell certified coaches, we purchase a license to be able to bring this to our communities, to impact our communities. So once you get the license, you're free and available to beam this to your local community. Last year, 300 locations. We were doing this on the back of another big event that had been to Kenya. And a lot of people could not resonate. Why? They asked us, why aren't you bringing John here in person?
Lead to the question I want to ask
Yes.
you before I get to you. Why John Maxwell? Why not Stephen Covey? Why not Napoleon Hill? Why not Robert Kiyosaki?
Good. Like I explained to you, in my own leadership journey and path, as I saw and sought solutions for what I wanted to do and deliver, I resonated most with John Maxwell in terms of what he stands for, in terms of the principles that he teaches. And like you, I had actually read a lot of his books along the way without really recognizing that he even had something that he was helping people like myself to stand on his shoulders and on his legacy, to be able to bring this to our communities. So I grew up, I'm a student of John Maxwell from way back. So a lot of the things of who I have become has been to books that I read. And then in my soul searching of impacting entrepreneurs and businesses that I was helping with Value Connect, is when I discovered that John actually started a company 10 years ago to empower people like me so that we can be able to carry on his legacy.
Would you say that his background, from my reading, I gathered that he had attended theological college. Well, he wasn't alone. Dale Carnegie was actually a minister, a Methodist minister. Would you say that a lot of the principles that form the structure, the back, or the foundation of a lot of his teachings are biblical?
You're right in everything you have read. For the first 25 years of John's life, he was actually a pastor. And in his days, he was heading what you'd call the top 10 mega churches in the U.S. But as he went and discovered, he started doing leadership trainings, at the time focused on church leadership. But as he began to cast the vision of growing leaders across his territory and the places he wanted to expand, he recognized that restricting himself into the church space would not give him the impact he wanted to make. And so he stepped out of church leadership and began growing leaders. He's led leaders in the Fortune 500 space, in corporate, in non-profit. So that's where his roots are. And you're right, a lot of the principles that John, in fact, one of his best-selling books, which is the 21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership, all those principles are actually based from the Bible. But the interesting part is it's a bestseller. And people have read the book and they've come back and he said, because he's a person of faith, I'm a person of faith. And when you look at what we stand for, we know that the roots of what my values and beliefs are rooted from there. Now, how I make you understand, I don't need to quote you a Bible verse. These are virtues that grow us as people, as individuals. When I say put people first, value people as you add value to them, that is something that transcends all faith.
And that everybody can relate to.
And everyone can relate
It's
to.
universal.
Right.
It is a universal law, as it were.
So you mentioned that, this is second time here that this would be taking place this
Yes.
year. And then maybe to now bring in Susan as I ask you the first question. So it's a double question here. So this is happening for the second time. What impacted the first time that you would want to do it for the second time? And what would you hope would happen with this second occurrence in Kenya in terms of impacting and changing lives here?
You see, when you taste something, and again, we go back even to our roots. When you find something good, you want to share this. Because if you keep it to yourself, it serves you, yes, but you haven't made an impact. And so for us as Value Connect to want to share this a second time is arising from an impact that we saw last year. Actually bringing in Susan also into the conversation. Last year, we were new kids on the block, had never done this before, but we walked to Apsa and we said, we have this program. We want to impact leaders. Last year, we were focusing on SMEs, the corporate executives and senior executives. And we went to Apsa and we said, would you come and partner with us in this event? Because we want to reach more people. We had 200 people. Last year, the rules of the game were different because you could only hold it in person. And the room we could find could only have 200 people. And they did say yes. They believed in us. And they said, because they are also a leader in their industry, they stepped up and they said, we want to be part of this. We want to make a difference with Value Connect. And they stood up to it. Second year running, we've gone back again to them. Times are difficult. The scenario has changed. But true to their word and what they stand for, I actually have a lot of respect and gratitude to the ABSA team and leadership. They have said yes again. and we're
Susan.
doing it again.
Susan,
So
you're
why?
on the spot. The third year, by the way,
Yeah.
you just dropped them.
Right, exactly.
Thank
They're
you.
So
lost.
why?
It really resonates with what we stand for as ABSA in terms of demonstrating sound leadership and credible leadership. As an organization, we've been here for 104 years and been involved in the journey of leadership. I don't know, many of us remember the first ATM that we brought around and people were singing Lingala songs on it. I mean, for us, it's about wanting to demonstrate sound leadership, bringing very good leadership, and especially in this period, people really need to sort of like listen and sort of like rethink, how do I lead my organization? And this is a program not just for business owners, but even for yourself as a person, and trying to see where am I? Maybe there's something I need to think through. And for us at ABSA, we've been involved in the journey of leadership, not just for our clients, but also for individuals. So one of the things that we've done, we've set up an ABSA Leadership Academy, which is really about helping our own employees become leaders in the communities where they are. And one of the things that we've done very well in this period is help our employees to become a force for good, right? So what we did was we had some funds that we matched with the ones for the employees. And as they go out to support the environment where they are, because we have about 85 branches, and we can't be there as leadership in all the 85 branches. So we empower the teams that are there in our branches to actually go to the communities and impact them through leadership. But then, like we were talking earlier, leadership has to come from within, right? And therefore, empowering our teams to be able to lead and demonstrate leadership in their environment has been one of those key things. And then as we entered this COVID environment, we definitely had a series of leadership sort of like webinars that we were driving for our clients. I believe we've done about 10 of them with different, along different areas. I remember our CEO, Jeremy, leading the very first one, which was leading through a crisis. So we positioned him to be able to talk about how is he leading ABSA during this crisis, perhaps for a business person to pick lessons from, because when it's a corporate going down, as an SME and you're seeking to root yourself, you'd want to understand how is this being done from a bigger corporate organization that can help you set up the right structures to be able to create a sustainable business for yourself. And therefore, we've just finished a series of 10 leadership lessons, and we told ourselves, I think this would be a perfect continuity to the journey on leadership that we've been on, especially during this COVID period. You recall when immediately the announcements were made, we were one of the first organizations that really came out to support, whether it's with PPE equipment, whether it's just creating lines of opportunities. We partnered with Aon Minet to be able to have a self-care line for people in the front line, right? And therefore, this to us is our way of making sure that we are sponsoring something that's going to impact lives, impact the leaders, for them to be able to understand how to reposition themselves during this period. So in that respect, we felt it's a natural fit towards the journey that we are on in leadership.
Susan, if I may ask, did ABSA also lay off workers like other industries in your field?
Currently, I can't say yes, no.
You didn't lay off any workers at all?
Currently, we haven't. We
Over this
haven't.
period?
Yeah, over this period, no.
But now
not because of COVID.
you had the SME arm of the bank,
Yeah.
and therefore you deal with people who are basically leaders in their very own right. These are entrepreneurs who have
Yes.
taken a step and invested and gone into business and taken the risks.
Yes.
You have seen the kind of impact that many of these small and medium organizations have gone through during this time. Then what kind of impact would you say that as a bank, this is what we've done to see that our clientele, those who have been banking with us, they're small businesses, they've gone through these rough times. This is how, first of all, we are helping the leadership of those organizations just to make decisions to ride this wave, and also their staff as well? What is it that you can say that, as ABSA, this is what we've done for our entrepreneurs?
Okay, very good question. And I remember even having a conversation, immediately it struck, and we really thought about our clients and how we impact them. Of course, first as an organization, you think internally, you think about your staff, you think about how you get them out of where they are if they have a dampened spirit because of the environment, and then think about your customers who are part of the ecosystem that you have within the bank. And we've had very honest conversations with our customers. One, if you need a repayment holiday, come through, come and ask, so that then we give you some breathing space for your business if the cash flows have been affected. And it's true, cash flows, I have customers who tell me their sales have gone down more than 80%. And they had employees, and they still have to lead those employees and face them, whether it's decisions of layoff, they've got to make that. But then you've got to be grounded as a leader, because in your organization, which is the SME in this space, in this case, you're the leader they are looking at to give them direction. And therefore, what we quickly brought together was a team of very able consultants in different areas. So we had the session on leadership, we had the session on leading with emotional intelligence, so that you're not breaking down, you know how to carry yourself despite what you have to do, whether it's business forecasting, whether it's business continuity planning. What do you do first? Most of the corporate organizations will probably have a business continuity plan, and they have a recovery plan that quickly comes into action. But for an SME who does everything, I'm the security guy, I'm the cleaner, I still need to be able to think, how do I take my organization to the next level? So those are some of the concepts that we really have been taking the business community through. And if they go to any of our the ABSA YouTube page, they'll be able to find snippets of what we've actually done to help them understand, where do I find myself, and how do I lead, and how do I try and manage my cash flows? How do I deal with suppliers that are knocking at my door? Is there something that I can do? Can I negotiate? How can I be a better negotiator, whether it's with my landlord? Just giving them an out-of-the-box thinking that help them understand, I'm not by myself, others are facing it, and therefore, how do I carry myself? And how do I begin to rethink? One of the other things that we've done for the suppliers that are currently the suppliers of ABSA, we are taking them through a sustainability program. How to ensure that as they rethink how to reposition their businesses, they're also thinking about the sustainable development goals and how their business environment affects the communities where they are in. What do they want to stand for and be known for? So that's one of the other things we've been taking our suppliers through in partnership with
As you're going through all this with the various groups, the suppliers and the SME customers, do you see like this is what they need? After maybe they've gone through the first session, do they go like, I actually needed that, I just didn't realize it, or yes, this is what I was looking for? Or during this period where I'm thinking bills, I'm thinking bank is asking for me to repay my loan, with everything else, what I needed is to be told, how to start pivoting yourself for the future. Yes. Are they saying that, this is actually answering to my current need?
It's a good question, and it's been very interesting, because we've held about 10 sessions. Each session average, we've got about 200 entrepreneurs, different entrepreneurs. And in that way, one of the things we found, because we're running them every 2 weeks, they kept coming. And we had sessions where we had 400 entrepreneurs in a session, listening to how do I find alternative ways of raising capital, for example. It just doesn't always have to be a bank. I think that's how we've always thought as an entrepreneur. I need to go to a bank. If it's not my friend, I'm going to. But there are other equity partners out there that are willing to have more patient capital to help your business grow. But back to your question, what we found is, because we've held a session today, and Masi has actually come in one of the mentorship programs. So we'd run a session on business continuity planning, and the next week we'd run a session on mentoring on business continuity planning.
Susan, are you
So
telling
if
me,
it is
are you
something,
telling us that you actually allow your clients to think of alternative lenders.
Yes.
So you encourage that sort of competition.
It's actually not competition. It's complementary. In the sense, if a lender has more patient capital than a bank that is regulated, and definitely with the regulation, I know if, I mean, the CBK governor did allow us to give up to 12 months repayment holidays, right? If that wasn't the case, would probably be on the 9 month, we're trying to see what do we do with you. I mean, on the third month, right? And therefore, because of the regulation within which we will operate as banks, there are other organizations like equity partners or angel investors who have more patient capital that is not as regulated. And they also come in with technical skills to support your organization. Become a better organization and run sustainable. And in that case, you'll find some of the SMEs, that's what they need. It's not really inject cash and move out.
So it's
No.
a client-focused approach.
Yes.
Now, let me ask this question. I had wanted to ask it. These principles that you have, they're truly laudable. How do you apply them to your own employees, the people who work within Barclays? How do you cater for the issues they may have during these times that we are in? And how do you ensure that they are able not only to weather it, but to weather it and to offer the services and the high level of services that you expect of them?
Very, 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 very good question. And I did allude to it that we think first internally and also think our customers. So internally, what we've done, every single month, we've got thought leadership sessions going on. They start at about 7:30 a.m. to about 9 latest, right? And here we've called in different experts in the different fields of what they could be going through. Again, emotional intelligence has been one of those critical ones, because you can imagine you also now have employees who are actually working from home and have to maneuver and have conversations, whether it's around performance with their team members, but at the same time, the home environment has your children, has your relatives probably. So in that respect, we've actually been able to bring different thought leaders to have conversations with our employees almost on every other week, monthly basis. And those have become so popular. So you find we have 500 colleagues at one point who are actually logged on to that kind of a session, growing themselves. We actually call them soul food sessions.
Is that,
Right.
is that the measure of success, the number of people who actually sign into the program?
I don't think so. I think the measure of success comes from how our customers view us, our net promoter score. Because if everything is going well with you, it will come out on the outside. So how you serve the customers who walk through our branches, it will show. Are you dealing with stuff and you don't have an outlet?
Yeah.
Or you could be snapping a lot. But what we've seen is we also have some good scores that have come out. And I think what I've seen is, we've really come out as a caring brand during this period, which is a testament of how we've been able to support our employees. I can tell you one of the things that the organization has done, and this is for employees, also help those who are working from home to be able to get their own sort of like workstations at good, affordable prices.
Yep.
And the organization has negotiated that to just make sure that they just didn't tell you go and work from home. They also try to support you with what is required for you to have the right environment to be
Continue
able
to be productive.
Exactly.
Because this is a Situation Room, broadcasting on Spice FM, online and on KTN Home. Conversation continues. We have with us in the studio Masila-Achola, the Executive Director of Value Connect, and Susan Situma, she's the VP and Head of SME Banking at ABSA Bank Kenya. We are talking about Live to Lead, and you're saying this year it's going to be a virtual. Now, are you able to actually host any physical meeting? Are you planning to host any part of this somewhere in a physical location?
Thank you, Eric. Like I said before, because of the times we're living in and the time we all now have become familiar to, we've had to pivot. And yes, we had started off with a live simulcast that was being held in a physical location, but we have recognized, or rather John Maxwell team recognized that first and foremost, being a global event, every country, every city, every state is at a different place in time. Some are open, some are not, some don't even know when they're opening. And so a very quick decision was taken as far back as April of this year to say that the event will happen, it will be a virtual event. At that point in time, we didn't know what it will entail, but we were told, go ahead, market your event, find partners like we went to find and discuss with Apsa. And so we are having a virtual event. And it will be virtual in the sense that you can watch this from the comfort of your home, of your office, whatever is desirable for you.
So what's required?
What's required is for you to buy a ticket from us. And once you buy a ticket from us, you will get a link that will allow you to be able to participate in this year's Live to Lead. I want to add, you're wondering, beyond John Maxwell, who else is joining John on stage? And John has been very, very intentional in the people he's inviting to join in on stage. We all know Steve Harvey, the entertainer. He's going to be sharing his journey and his story. There's Kat Cole, who started off as a waitress, and today she's leading Focus Brands. Then there's Alan Malali, who helped to turn around the Ford Motor Company. He's also a former CEO of Boeing. He'll be sharing, how did he do this? How did he inculcate value and value culture into his team? And then there'll also be Craig Groeschel.
Okay.
On our part, also with the support of ABSA, we'll be having a local panel. We'll be having Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, the CAS in the Ministry of Health. We'll be having Julian Kula from Purpose Center, and we'll be having Dashan Chandaria from the Chandaria Group. We'll also have a representative from ABSA. We're still agreeing who that will be. But we want to integrate that conversation from a global aspect. How does it connect with us locally?
To Kenyanize
and
it.
how we are able to apply with it going forward.
Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us today. And where would one get more information on this?
We would ask you to call the following number, 0799 0799 748 069, or email info@valueconnectonline.com. I will repeat. Call 0799 748 069 or email info@valueconnectonline.com. You can also visit our landing page. It is https://valueconnect.groovepages.com// Live to Lead Kenya / Should I repeat that?
There's a mini slash.
There's a mini
I guess
slash.
you
There's a
can
many
just
slashes.
Google Live to Lead.
Yes.
Just
Which
Google
is
Live to Lead Kenya.
LIVE
Yes.
to lead.
Yes.
Live to Lead.
Yes.
All right.
Number 2.
Thank you very much, ladies. Masila-Achola, ED, Value Connect, and Susan Situma, VP, Head of SME Banking, ABSA Bank. Asanteni sana, and wish you all the best with the event.
Thank you.